Hello, legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony. The boys are already out here. Christian is going with us. I'm not wearing these socks. These are just what I slept in to keep my feet warm. It's cold here. It's about 8 or 9 C right now. But it's going to warm up during the ride up to about 18, 19 C around noon. But right now it's nippy, so I'm wearing 2 base layers. I've got a Santini sleeveless base layer underneath. I've got the Rafa base layer. I've got my arm warmers and my thermal shorts. I've got knee warmers on. Christian's going with us. I don't think he brought knee warmers. I'm wearing my throwback retro jersey, Rafael Geminiani, from the San Rafael team today. Paul is outside getting ready. He just drove up a little while ago. And I'm hoping this will be warm enough to start, but then flexible enough to wear. This arm warmer, for the team arm warmer, I can wear comfortably up to 20 to 20, probably 20 C would be a good limit for it. So I'm not that concerned about it. And these are wool knee warmers, so they're very breathable. I'm going to keep this zipped up early on in the morning. We're going to visit the Woodland Cycling Club today, the team that Maurizio the racers ride with. And Christian, of course, knows Maurizio fairly well. So we're going to head out there. And other than that, without further ado, it's time for me to get ready. I'm taking a lot of food today because we'll probably do about at least 150 kilometers. Those guys don't play. We decided to go with those guys this week because with the Rafa Festive 500 coming, there's been a lot of demand on our time, personally and for cycling. So we're trying to go with a group that is going to maximize what I call the moving time. You know, most groups, they leave on time, they don't play around. So we just wanted to kind of mix things up this week. This was the group that hooked up with us on the road last week. So we're going to meet them at the Ashland. The Ashland YMCA is a little west of where Team RR starts. And so we're going to leave in about 9 minutes. That's the plan, and head out there. I always wear these at night because they're nice and warm. They got fleece on the inside. My wife brought them one time because she's a nurse, and they get access to those things. So I liked them and kept them. But I'm going black so that this jersey stands out. That's kind of how you want to do things. You don't want to wear a busy jersey like this and have a lot of other busy stuff. They fight each other. So everything is just subdued. I'm putting on a black helmet, and I've got black full-fingered gloves that I'm going to wear. And I will probably be taking them off maybe after the 3rd hour. So hope you'll get a chance to get some K's in. I'm going to go ahead and get ready.
On this ride, Paul, Christian, and I left Northampton. We rode into the Woodlands to pick up the Woodland Cycling Club at the Ashland YMCA. From there, we went up Sterling Ridge, up to Branch Crossing, out to Fish Creek, headed out into Honier. We passed the Team RR guys once we got into Montgomery. We continued, we went up 149. The goal was to get to Richards. You see us going through the Sam Houston National Forest there, and we hit a bunch of hills. The entire trip to Richards is up, so we gained elevation. On the return, we cut through the forest using Bethel Road down to 1097 into Montgomery. It was windy, breezy, and just crazy windy. And from this video that you're going to see what it takes to keep a group together. You're going to see how elite riders can help riders that are falling off the pace. Paul was shepherded by Mo, David, and Will throughout Bethel Road and even all the way into Richards. So it's a good learning experience. It was good to see. I was really thrilled to see how much they put an effort into making sure everybody enjoyed the ride. So Lots to learn. I hope you enjoy the clips. We're talking about Mo going out and putting in 300 kilometers on Thursday and Friday.
And he went back and did more. I was like, man.
So he did 300 kilometers 2 days before this ride. That's Katie. Katie put the hammer down today. Well, Jared's only Palmaris that he's Katie's husband. I hope he doesn't mind. As far as I see it. Katie's the hammerhead in the family. She's strong. You guys know Paul, so I'm introducing the other guys. Dave, Woodland Cycling Club racer. We met him that day. That's Doug shot behind Paul. You can't see him, so I'll introduce him later when you can see him. That's
There's a rider over there.
Let's see. Somebody's coming.
Yeah, that's Will.
Okay.
So Will is coming. That's another hammerhead.
Jesus.
So when Will starts going, I'm not sitting on this wheel. That guy's a nut.
That's the guy who started a breakaway with me. I ended up in a
it's
breakaway.
like he's got a motor in that thing.
Yeah.
I was like, man.
He hammered.
I look behind, nobody's there. I'm like, what am I doing up here? I didn't plan on riding this hard. Yeah.
Jerry did not feel good yesterday on ride.
Most talking about Jerry. Jerry's not riding. Jerry's not well. That's, you all know Christian. Christian rides everything with two wheels. Just all around strong boy. And here's Will. Will is, I said yet another strong rider, but Will is always off the front. And he loves Rafa. That's Mike F. We got to meet him. He's over there getting ready. He lives in Tomball, Texas. My neighbor. He lives where Robert Tengler lives. It's a little west of where we live.
Yeah, this
So he's
time
getting
we
ready.
quarantine the kids. When they come from school, they have to go to the mud room, wash their hands before they can enter the house.
Yeah, one of our riders, Jerry, is
You gotta go
not
through
well.
quarantine to enter the house. Yeah, there's a lot of crap out there, and those bug carriers.
I got a couple weeks ago.
Well, you ride a lot, and you get sick easier if you're around people that got stuff. Yeah.
The spring.
Christian having coffee. Everybody's getting ready.
Just set it on 5312 and that's it.
Mo is telling Greg Shot to set it on 5312. His shifting, his EPS is having a problem, so we're laughing.
That way you're ready for the speed.
Yeah, when do we ever come out of 53? I guess there's that one hill where you go 5314. You guys ready for that? It's on Mo rides.
We'll watch you. That's why I got the camera. We'll film you from a distance.
That's Mike. Mike said they're going to be riding 5314 into the wind because Mo had made a joke that
Film you.
that guy's gear is stuck in a 12, and he said just ride the 5312 the whole day because the EPS has failed. I think he didn't charge it or
that's
something.
Yeah, today they seem very unsure because they have the group me thing that they post on. They didn't.
We're talking about Team RR. We're going to ride with them tomorrow, Sunday, from this ride. Everybody's ready. So you can see it's 7:35, I believe. So you get a 5-minute window. You got to be there on time. We got there about 7:22. We're 8 minutes early, and everybody pretty much gets there early to be ready to roll. You don't want to get there rushing to get ready. Give yourself time for your group rides.
Brother, you want to start? Give it to me when you need a break. We'll share the load. All right, brother. Go to one.
I give Paul the camera there. I kind of want him dealing with the camera before it gets hard. We can get some shots, and then we ended up switching. I took the camera later. That's Doug. Doug Shot that I put the arrow on in the green jersey. His brother is having a mechanical problem. As we leave the YMCA here, his brother stops and he stops with him. So his EPS system is not functioning well. I think when the battery gets low, they have their little default modes they go into, and it's not. I don't know what the details are, but it's not a reflection on EPS shifting. Because Mo has EPS. Once you set it, he says it works really well. And he says every 2 months or so he has to charge the battery. It has to do with how much you ride, how much you shift. Even the cable system we use today, the cable was stretched and you gotta adjust it. So everything needs TLC. He tries to go with us here because you'll see later on he'll show up. But he ended up eventually just going home, picking up the time trial bike, and he ends up meeting us out there. They ended up riding shorter. They met us on the way back. So Will, Mo, and a bunch of the guys I introduced that do serious road racing right now. I don't race anymore, I just ride. But it's good to it was good to come out with them. You can see the wind. See this guy's, Dave's jacket being blown around. It is cold, okay? It's the upper 30s, it's like 3 Celsius. And we're headed north. Christian is kind of dressed for later in the morning. I ended up pulling off my knee warmers when we got to Richards. It was one of those mornings where it warmed up fairly quickly, but it was blustery because right now we have headwind, and then coming back we had headwind. So the winds shifted, and you will see them. I don't remember what Christian is talking about here, but we're shooting the breeze, just rolling out, warming up, check for traffic, let everybody know it's clear. This group is so much faster than the Team RR guys. Took us a bit to adapt to it, but once we got going, it was okay. They're also smoother, and they're more serious as far as just discipline. That's Greg Schott's wheel over there. I don't know why he was riding over there. He's the one that he came with mechanical. His shifter is not working in the rear. He ends up going back and getting another bike, because he realized he just wasn't going to do it. We're going into the wind. It's going to be very hilly. You have to have shifting on a ride like this. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's what happens if you come to a ride with a mechanical. Chances are you're not going to be able to complete the ride, because these guys don't play. They're not waiting because you came with a ride. I mean, I started my day at 5:30 in the morning, and it's similar for most of these guys. The guy in front here on the camera in view comes from Tomball, Texas. So he has to start really early and drive up to the Woodlands. So he doesn't come because somebody didn't maintain their bike on Thursday or Wednesday to come wait for them on a cold morning. And in Greg's defense, somewhat, he kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. So at some point soon, he called it, and he and his brother rode back home, and he got his time trial bike out. So they ended up doing a shorter route than we did, and they met us on the way back. I may have mentioned that already, or some of it. So we turn here, Mo and them check, Mo and Will, and we're riding like a train, and they make sure that everybody can get through, otherwise they would have stopped. There were no cars coming as a four-way stop. So they checked, and we're part of the train, so we roll on through. And we turn directly into the wind pretty much. It says northeast, but we're not going to go east very long. It's a cold morning, and you will hear in a little while on the highway, Will turns around and just says, "It's cold out here." I will point that out. And Katie had worn regular gloves because she, when you watch the weather, it says it's going to warm up quickly. But then you get out here, and then with the wind, sometimes you bear it for the first hour or so because you don't want to carry too much stuff that you got to take off and stuff them in your jersey. and you only got 3 pockets. Now, Dave, who's in front of Mike here, said that, hey, his solution is he wears 2 jerseys, so he ends up with 6 pockets. But even that, you've got things on top of each other. It just gets too crowded back there. So I like to kind of gauge it as close as possible. So Greg is still hanging with his shifting problems. He's stuck in 1 gear. Mo doesn't do a lot of drafting. You're gonna notice that. He and Will are sitting at the front. They're warming up 33, 35 kilometers an hour. We're warming up here. They're warming up at other people's cruising speed. I mean, in this condition anyway, but there's no tailwind here. I think Mo's getting something to eat. I already had taken a gel. You want to eat early. If you're going to eat solids, now's the time to get it in your system.
Let's go.
I just asked Paul about the camera, and you know, with the weather the way it is, so cold, and the gimbal gets affected. We have averaged over 500 kilometers a week for the last month. And what I've noticed is that my heart rate has dropped significantly at varying levels. But basically what that means is that my heart works less when I go hard. Doesn't change the fact that the legs still need to do the work, but the heart is more efficient as you get fitter. So we get into the proper lane here for vehicles going straight. Will checks, Mo checks. I look. You always want to keep looking because the traffic conditions can change, even though all of you going through as a group. Look for Paul to make sure he's in the draft so we can move up. With these guys, you can't mess around. You have to draft properly or you will work hard. And you don't want to work hard when it's not necessary. Because if you don't draft properly when it's time to really go hard, you might be tired because you've been catching the wind. Right now, we're just kind of warming up, so it's not that big of an issue, but every amount of energy you save is energy in the bank. That's Mo playing around. He checked for traffic, zigzagging. He's checking to make sure everybody's here. That's what he does. Look at it. Kicked it up, go back to the front. Mo ends up riding about a half more of the distance than we do because he's always going back to shepherd people. And you'll see that on his ride. I was telling Paul the camera looked good there because you can see how it's well framed here. It didn't last too long. It starts acting up once we hit the open road. And then as soon as it warmed up on the way back, it behaved perfectly. We stopped for this light here at Research. This is the road that we usually go to the left on with the team. That was Dave apologizing to Paul. He blew his nose, but he thought that some of it had gotten on Paul because the wind's out here. And he wanted to make Paul say he was cool. He was okay. Look at Mo way up the road already, messing around. And then that's Katie. Katie gets up there. This is Dave here. I go ahead and just pull us up there. I look for my wingman. That's the signal. Let's get up there. Those wool, they're wool knee warmers. I really like them because they're very light and they keep you warm and they let a lot of air through. They don't feel as constricting as the Lycra ones with fleece in them. They don't get super hot either. We're not really riding hard here. That's Greg. He moved up on the right. He's still on the shoulder. He seems to be attached to the shoulder. We're using the road. I got my Victoria Evos on this bike. The wheels I have the Victoria, and they're singing to me.
Yeah, further.
See how we're using half of the lane? That's the way you're supposed to ride. Basically, you're taking the whole lane, but you're not necessarily way over by the white line. Don't worry about the yahoos that may blow at you and stuff. Just make sure it's not a safety concern. And you keep riding. The pace has picked up in earnest. You can see the speeds. I use cadence here. I'm still in zone 1. It's because of all the riding we've been doing for the last month. It's like it's ramped up my fitness to another level.
Is it?
The light changes as we approach, so we don't have to unclip. There is another group at this corner on the right there. Those guys are not part of our group. It's not a group I'm familiar with, but this area has a lot of cyclists that head out. I'm not sure what Mo and Greg are talking about. From the gestures from Mo, it looks like they're discussing how we're going to return. I think this is where Greg is deciding to go back home because of the shifting problems he's having. And Mo's letting him know what route we're going to be using so they can hook up with us. Because they end up hooking up with us on the way back. Because we did not come straight back. We tried to use a route that would not have us driving into the south wind the whole time. It was just basically blustery and very gusty. So we're going and the wind is from the northwest. Coming back, it switches to the southwest, southeast. So So the cold air is from the northwest, and the warmer one is from the southeast, and they're fighting each other. We're turning right, so Mo's checking for traffic, doing almost a track stand. He has to unclip. You see how he unclip without no fuss, no muss? Because your pedal tension needs to be adjusted to where you can do that without a lot of strain. So once the traffic clears, I think they got stopped by a traffic light. Because the speeds on this road is probably 45 to 50 for cars. That's what it's posted at. They go a little faster than that, so we check. So this is 2978, the FM 2978, also known as Fish Creek Boulevard. Depending on which stretch you're on, the names are different. Christian's going to be riding with us as I do this narration. We're riding tomorrow morning, Monday. I'm narrating this part of it on Sunday. We move into the lane that's going straight. The right lane only turns right at the corner. I let Paul know they're slowing down. We've got a red light. We stop. And I'll let you listen to the banter.
Katie on film because she said it is Saturday. You know how cyclists will say that. What else you gonna do on a Saturday morning, right? Most said, what do you want to do today? She said it is Saturday. That was a classic response. I felt warm when I heard it. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, you're tough. I'm wearing this stuff and I'm cold. Well, it's gonna warm up, hopefully, yeah. It's cold. This thing has fleece.
Her hands are hurting because she's wearing regular gloves. She thought it was gonna warm up quickly. You never get it down perfectly. You always gotta constantly work at it. I'm wearing the protein gloves and they're a little cold. They're lighter gloves for 10C and higher. And it's just colder than we thought it would be, and then we're going into the wind. But it warmed up fairly quickly. So Mo had asked what people wanted to do today, the distance. And Katie's response was, it is Saturday. That's what I was bugging her about. I said, only a cyclist would say, it is Saturday. What else are you going to be doing on Saturday morning? What she meant was, it's Saturday. We need to go long.
It's hard in these kind of days. I don't want to carry this stuff.
So they're going for a casual ride of about 80 miles. You know, that's how hardcore these guys are. I guess I'm one of them, so hardcore we are. This is Katie's husband, Jared, here. Jared got dropped later in the ride. Katie told Will not to wait for him. So Mo told me they do that to each other. So sounds like a fun couple. I think Jared was not using the drive very well, so she figured let him work. I'm probably sitting in a 53-19 at this point. I end up shifting up shortly because you can see the speeds increasing. We're going into a headwind. notice that this group uses the lane more than the Team RR guys, which I think makes more sense. When you have a large group, when the conditions are right, this road has 2 lanes. We're using the right lane. The wind is coming from directly in front of us and to the left, but mostly from the front. It looks like I'm in a 53-15 there. Or 16. Looks like a 16. That's a close shot Paul got there. That's a 16. So I found that most of the ride with these guys were in the 19 to the 16. Even in the rollers, they ride hard. Paul spun the camera around to get it to calibrate. You can see the shot is a lot better. It moved away from just being on my gear cluster, my rear cluster. I put my taillight on steady because Christian once again said it was too bright when it was blinking. I'm not sure why he was looking at my light. That was when we're on the way to meet the group. Quite often in a group I will turn off my light and save it for the return after we leave the group to make sure I have enough power. But I always charge my lights before these long rides. So I get at least 6 hours this one. Covered almost 80 kilometers or 50 miles in 2 hours and 32 minutes into the wind and up 4 to 6% climbs. That was pretty fast. And if you're uncomfortable on your bike, it's hard to ride like this, like the way you see us riding. You see, everybody in this group pretty much has a decent fit. I didn't see anybody all over the place or too far off. So at this level, these guys are serious enough to have invested in a fit long ago. I saw the value. So when I'm riding, all I do is, if the gear feels heavy, I downshift. If the gear feels too light, I upshift. I don't worry about what gear I'm in. I ride strictly based on what I need for the situation. Using the smallest possible gear to maintain that speed. Those 2 base layers I wore were perfect with just the jersey. I prefer to have just the jersey versus wearing a gilet, as I've explained in the past. You can't access your food easily, you gotta pull the gilet up. Again, Paul spun the camera around, it calibrated better. We got a good shot here as we begin to go down this hill into the wind. I open my arms, I move to the right to let the wind slow me down. That's what you see me doing there. I'm looking around Jared to see what's coming as I pick my line. I I stand up because there's a lot of debris and I want to benefit from the draft. So I take the weight off my tires there. That's why I'm standing. I'm in a larger cog than I would need when I'm seated, so I don't have to keep a high cadence while I stand. And sometimes just standing like that relieves your muscles, especially when you've been climbing along. Once again, Paul tries to get this camera to recalibrate. Go ahead and use the road right away. Motion to Paul. We've come through here enough. That shoulder disappears. So we're using the road here. Light turns red. We let everybody know we're stopping. This is where I think Will says it's cold. Yeah, Will turned around. He said, "It's cold out here."
It's gonna warm up in a little bit, but yeah. It's cold right now.
It's colder than the weather forecasted.
It's cold.
It says 2C. That's like 36 Fahrenheit, 2 Celsius. It's cold, and we're going into the wind. So that's why I covered my knee. I think Paul's wearing full tights today, and then he's got his Pro Team thermal base layer, which has that little extra neck thing. So we're dressed properly. We don't play with the weather. Both Paul and I, we walk outside, we check. And on this ride, my wife was leaving to drop off our daughter at work. And so I got to walk outside before I was fully dressed. So I felt that cold air. Right here, Katie pulled to the left to check on her husband. And I was going to close the gap. She said, "No, I'm coming. And then she rides back to fill the gap. And it may look easy, but it's not, because we're going up and it's into the wind. So I realized this lady's strong and she's light. So every time the road went up, she was putting the hurt down. We were working hard. You'll see it. We start to gap the cameraman here when she takes over. I mean, it gets hard because, she doesn't have to carry very high watts per kilo necessarily. But even on the flat, she can hold her own. She's just a strong rider all around. She's very competitive. She wins a lot of the races she takes part in. She's always in the contention for the podium, or she's basically taking the win. So she's got the Palmares. The camera is a little off because of the wind, but I think the views are cool because you get to see the kind of gearing we're in. But notice that everybody is fairly stable on their machines. It starts with fit, guys. There's no shortcut. If you don't get fitted, you won't have as much fun. You won't want to ride as much. So we're doing 37 kilometers an hour into a headwind up a climb. It didn't take us too long to realize these guys don't play. Not sure who's at the front right now. It's not Katie. She's following someone. I think at this point I'm in third position. In a little while, we'll see who's driving this pace here. We're going up a climb. It's not a registering point. I see those pink overshoes look like Will. Yeah, it's Will. He was at the front. Every time Will gets to the front, the pace quickens. So he pulled off the front. I believe there was another rider in front of Katie. I think in a little while Paul catches the angle of the camera and flips it around. This is Will going past me here. He's drifting back. Yeah, right there, Paul lowers it and recalibrates a little better. You guys see how stable I am in the saddle? You shouldn't be moving around in your saddle. You should just be pedaling. If you're squirming and squishing around and trying to find a spot, something's off with your setup. Invest in your fit. That's the best investment you can make before you do anything else. I'm staying slightly to the right of Katie's wheel, I believe, because we're using the road here, which makes it a little easier. You can see me on the right. Somebody else just pulled off the front. I think it's Mike F. And that's Dave at the front. You can tell by his shoes. He had blue shoes on. But Paul will soon sort this camera thing out. I guess he's working so hard he's not concentrating on the camera right now. And that's what I've told him. Let the camera do its thing. The weather is challenging the gimbal right now. The camera's filming, but the gimbal has it pointed kind of down at the road here. We passed a group of cyclists. Those guys that were at that corner earlier. They were way ahead of us because they didn't catch the light at 2978, and so we stopped at that light, so we were further back. We never saw them again on this right. So in a short while, Paul will adjust. He'll flip the camera around to get the gimbal to stabilize. Yeah, right around here. Yeah. You can see he's working hard. We're going hard here. Katie has just pulled off. She's been driving the pace. I'm pulling right now. I try to back it off just a little bit to where it's not noticeable. I don't stay up there too long. Christian has come around Paul. He's on my wheel. This is Jared on Christian's wheel. And then Paul is behind Jared now. We're heading towards the overpass. It's in the distance. Probably a couple of kilometers up the road. Pull off before the hill just to kind of let Christian come in on reasonable ground. So when I pulled up, the road was slightly downhill. Now we're going up. I always like to pull off to where it's not on a climb per se. You don't want to give somebody the lead on a climb. You can avoid it unless you really toast. I stayed just long enough to do my share of the work. You can see it says 2C. It's cold. I did not take the chance of not covering my knees because I knew we're going north and it's always cooler on the north side. So that's why I wore my knee warmers. Here comes the overpass. Christian is driving the pace right now. The way these guys ride this group, you have to have strong legs because climb, wind, they ride. They don't back off. Right here, Paul's having challenges with the camera. So the gimbal basically is being affected by the weather. He's trying to get it calibrated and all the while riding. So he goes ahead and gives it to me after we get off the overpass. We turn left on Capitol Road. So I get it and the gimbal's off. It had pretty much quit on it. And I turn it back on and it immediately lines up. I experienced the same challenges he was having. So we're on Capitol Hill Road here. That's Christine in front of me. Ride up the Christian wheel. This Christian's wheel, I've just basically just get relatively close. We're gonna be going downhill slightly. It says -1, and I'm coasting. That truck passes us and he has to brake behind the other group, guys from our group that are up the road. It's been a split. So he goes around when it's safe. I wish all drivers would do that. He was patient. So I ride up the Christian's wheel. Mo is in front of Christian, and we roll up to the rest of the group that was up the front, Katie and Jared. I spin the camera around to get it calibrated. There's Mo on the left. It's going back to shepherd the rest of the guys over. We're all pretty much together. Coming up the Ribbon Chapel Road. Part of this, after maybe 6 kilometers or so, I'm putting up the camera and I let a gap open and these guys ride away like a diesel. I don't have it on film because I had already put up the camera, but I ended up riding up to Paul, and I believe Maurizio was with Paul when I rode up to him, and we pretty much got back together pretty quickly. But it doesn't take much to fall off the pace. Will was at the front when that happened. I was putting up the camera. And then when we got to the stop in Richards, I told him, I said, man, you guys are going really hard on Mill Route. And Dave said, that was Will. You see Katie up there. Katie is very strong. I'm sitting close to Christian because we're going into the wind. It's very, very breezy. The whole day was breezy. Coming back, we're fighting the wind against the wind. Switched on us. So that's Katie up there. It's Jared in front of Christian. And Mike F is driving the pace at this moment. The pace is hot. Boys are moving. Well, I thought it was Mike. It was actually Will. Will was in front of Mike. Now Mike takes over. You can see how close I am. This is not the time to act cute. I'm looking for the drag. Because if you save your energy here, when you come to the hills and other attacks, or when they press the pace later, you'll have saved something to react to that. In a short while, I believe we're going to come across the four-way stop sign. Spread across the road. Jared looks like he's stretching his back on the right there. So they check the sign to let us know we go through. As you come through, you got to check, just in case. I keep messing with this camera. I spin it around again and it settles. See, Christian's getting hot. We all regulate heat differently. I had 2 base layers on and just my jersey. So he opened his vest. We're riding 40 kilometers an hour upwards because this is a slight climb, but into the wind. You hear the wind. Look at his jersey. I mean his vest. These guys are fast. This is the Woodland Cycling Club. Bunch of racers. That's Dave we just passed there. He's just drifting to the back. He's not having any problems. And this is Katie here. Katie is diminutive, but she puts down the power. Especially as the road goes up and you're following Katie, you got to work. Us big guys, we got to put out more watts. That's Mike F at the front from Tomball, Texas. And he's just putting it down. We're climbing into the wind, up a climb, 2 to 3%. At 28, 29 kilometers an hour. That's like 18 miles an hour. This is a hard pace. And these guys can sustain it. They're not sprinting. They're just riding. There's a difference. There are people who ride at a pace where they can only go for 100 yards. This is not the case. These guys are riding at a sustainable pace. It does make a difference. This is what they do all the time. So we're going to be visiting them regularly. So Mike F pulls off and Katie is at the front. Look how smooth she looks. Just the legs are moving. That's the way you're supposed to look on a bike, guys. Smooth, economy of motion. She's putting down the power. I let them know we're going to be turning right. Spin the gimbal around to get it situated. In a little while it starts to continue to mess up. That's when I go to put it up and they pull away from me. We end up grouping on the highway. So she takes her turn, she stands up to keep that gear rolling. Christian recognizes that, he's right on her wheel. You're gonna see a bunch of people come around me at this point. So she's pulling off the front. She's done with her pull. I spin the camera around. There's Paul Ilonga on my left. And I think Mo comes up at this point with his hand on Paul. Mo's always keeping his eye. There you go. He pushed Paul. Let Paul know. Go on through. That's Will on the left. That's Dave. Katie's right here. And this is Jared, Katie's husband, on the right. And I'm just sitting at the back here. Let them know there's a car coming. We tighten it up just a little. We're coming to a curve, so the car's gonna have to wait a little bit. You see how steady Katie's body is? Just her legs are moving. If you don't look like that, you need to get a fit done. Look at this guy. Look at Mike F. Steady. Everybody in this group has a good fit. It's not an accident. That's why experienced cyclists look so smooth.
Come back, coming around.
So I'll let them know he's coming around so they can close it up. Because car bag's not enough. With this wind, some people are doing echeloning a little bit, you know. So as the man at the back, it's my responsibility to let them know there's another car coming. I believe this other car, I don't know if we're close enough to the turn. I believe he ends up waiting. Yeah, we take the lane. That's one thing. Let me see here. Did we? I know I looked back. I probably motioned to the driver, yeah, so he waits. So basically, I was on the left. I let him know we're turning, and then I moved over on the left so that it's clear that we're going to be turning so he doesn't come by. And this is where they pull away from me in a little bit. I'm messing with the camera here. I'm not sure if it's right on this spot here. But they just turn, and I believe Will was at the front. I found out later. See, they pulled away from me. I was messing around with the camera and it just rolled off like I was standing still. You can't mess around. I can still see them in the distance, so I'll go ahead and in a little while I think I put the camera up. Yeah, I'm sitting up right here. Yeah, I'm putting the camera up and then I'm gonna ride up. And at this point in the ride, we're basically leaving Richards. And you see Paul on the left of Dave. This is where we just started after the rest, and sometimes your legs don't wake up. So Paul was struggling here. These guys have been riding hard. We did 80 kilometers, which is about 50 miles in 2.5 hours in the hills and wind. That's fast. So I'm letting Paul know, just drift back a little bit so you're on his shoe. That's where the wind is coming from the right mostly, which is west. So the road goes up. When you stand like that, it's a relief in a way. I noticed that Dave on the right was doing that quite a bit when we're heading into Richards, which is smart, especially these small rollers. You can see there's a group up the road. When we left Richards, the 4 of us were kind of off the back, and when we turned, Paul was having some challenges, so we're trying to keep the group together. This is the part of this film. This part of this film, I think you guys will enjoy, guys and girls. Is it shows you how the elite riders behave. These guys don't have to do what they're doing. They're basically shepherding Paul here. Because Paul is well protected in that position. The wind is coming and hitting Dave, so Paul's not fighting the wind. I'm just sitting behind him to get a good shot with the camera here. At this point, I'm not struggling, but when we were going out, there were a couple of hills where I got gapped, and Dave had to like back off to give me a wheel. He said, "Oh, I didn't want you to give up." I was riding back up to them, but it was hard. And when he gave me that wheel, it was at the opportune moment, and that was the impetus I needed to just kind of catch a breather, so to speak. So yeah, the ride was hard. You hear the wind; it's blustery. Mo was waiting. He knew we're back here, so he's waiting. He's gonna get behind me on my left. And he's so quiet. I even ended up telling him, I didn't even know you were there when he came around on me. So what we're doing is we're keeping Paul out of the wind here, because about maybe 3 or 4 kilometers we turn right in the forest, and the forest is shielded. Yeah, I'm laughing because I told Mo I didn't even know you were there. So he came around me to keep his eye on Paul, because he had been putting his hand in the back of Paul when the hills would be too hard, to keep him at threshold. And the problem is, it's actually harder because you stay at that pain threshold longer. It doesn't really matter what your heart rate says, because it's your legs that are doing the work. And you see how smooth Paul looks. So even though he's riding hard and working hard and struggling, he still looks smooth. That's what I told him. I said, you didn't look like you were suffering. He looks so smooth. Even Will told him, man, at least you look good. You know, if you're gonna be cycling, you gotta look good. Will was talking about the Rafa clothing. Will's a big Rafa fan, and so am I. And so's Paul, of course. And so we chatted on the day after this ride. We rode together again, and we talked about the sales and how to look out for it, and then how to care for the stuff. And Will said that his, I think he has a housekeeper, ended up throwing some of his Rafa stuff in the dryer and just ruining them. You know, so I told him, I said, yeah, you know, to avoid that, I do my own laundry. You know, so I got my own hamper downstairs, and I keep my clothes separate from the rest of the family. I don't let nobody touch my Rafa. I don't let anyone touch my Rafa stuff. I didn't get any complaints out of my wife. I mean, she was like, cool. So, you know, it's one less thing for her to be concerned about. Plus, I wash my stuff very frequently anyway. I don't let them sit. The washer has what they call a micro load. It uses very little water. I use that often. The ball's working hard here. That's why Mo's keeping an eye on him. It was a very hard ride because going to Richards is a net gain. I think we rode like 700 meters, or you know, it's just a lot of climbing. These guys are strong. They're riding at a sustainable pace. So the funny thing about this, after this Saturday's ride, as hard as it was, on Monday today that I'm finishing the narration, Paul wanted to go to Richards again so he could deal with those hills.
Keep riding, keep riding. Oh, this is gonna stop.
Yeah, these guys, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but that truck up ahead, they're picking up trash. People gather the trash. This is the Sam Houston National Forest that we're in. It's federal property. So what happened is, people collect the trash and put them in bags and put them on the side of the road. And that vehicle is going by and picking them up. But the cool thing is, the guy is not even getting out of the vehicle. He's leaning over and just grabbing the bags from the side of the road.
This guy's leaning up. You see that? Leaning over and picking up stuff without them stopping. Watch it.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that. It's like, that is so cool.
That is cool. Look at that.
He's leaning over, grabbing the bag, throwing it, and the vehicle's just moving. They don't have to stop. I hope we get another shot at it.
Yeah.
We were working too hard for me to try to ride into that wind to film him. They're still down the road, I believe. So because the wind is coming from the right, it is important that when you're riding, I don't care if you're strong, not strong, it doesn't matter. Don't waste your energy while you're behind, because whatever energy you save, when you get to the front, you'll be fresh enough to pull long and help the group. So you see where Paul is. Paul is on the left. That's where you need to be. It's the perfect spot. See, he's protected from the wind. And just keep your front wheel on the shoe of the other rider. And you know, it needs to be experienced riders. These guys know that he's there. And the rider on the right knows to stay smooth and stay straight and not swerve left because somebody's there. I'm moving left and right to just get some good shots. This is hard. It's not easy. We're riding hard here. So I think here I get in most draft. What I'm doing before I do that, I check for traffic to move out in the lane like that. You know, it's a fairly busy road. But this road is heavily traveled by cyclists. I tell them car back so they can close it up just a little to let the car get around us. See Paul move over, and there's the car, and he moved it. The guys give up plenty of room. That's what they mean when they say share the road, guys. Both cyclists and drivers need to cooperate. There's no point in blocking the lane because the law gives you the right to do that. That's just not being considerate. Even though I know some of those drivers, our citizens, behave the wrong way. But that's what it means. I'm going to make a video about that. I took some pictures of the sign on the road, and I'll make a video about, you know, sharing the road and the responsibilities and expectations. I want you guys to keep your eye on Mo. Mo is an elite racer. The only thing moving are his legs. You will really get a better view of this when we get into the outskirts of Montgomery and he's riding into this, what I call mini hurricane. It was a brutal day. We fought the wind going north, and now we're fighting the wind going south. The day warmed up quickly, but because the cold air was around, when the south breeze tried to take over, it was just swirling around.
Come back.
That's Jared. He's pulled off the front. He's drifting back. I believe I'll move up so he can get behind me. I want to stay on Mo's wheel. He's so much easier to follow. He loves doing that when the road goes down. He's saving your energy. You don't have to pedal. See the hill, the road goes up there, right around where that car is. We're going to be turning right. That's Bethel Road. You guys, look at Mo. Look at Mo's motion. Nothing is moving but his legs. If you don't look like that on your bike, get a fit, because you need to fit your bike to where nothing's moving but your legs. You look at Mo, you look at Paul, you look at Dave, Will, Mike, Katie, everybody. These guys have been riding enough to where they value, they got their fit dialed in. You know, that's how you're supposed to look. This is how the top pros look. You generate more power, you're comfortable, you don't have any issues. We're on Bethel Road South. In the forest here. We're still in the forest. This is a little more sheltered a bit, but the road is up and down too, so it's not particularly easy or anything. So you get a little bit of a reprieve here. People are soft pedaling, and then they're going to pick it up in a little bit. These guys overall, they just ride fast, and I was like, man, it was a great workout. I was very tired after this ride. There's a lull in the action here. Will is pulling off the front. Katie takes over. And Katie climbs well. See, 2%. These roads are like Bethel Road. They don't seem like much, but you feel them. You know, they don't look up, but you see how the camera's behaving well. Now the temperatures have finally past 10C, and what I've noticed, it works. We see Katie putting the power down. The watts per kilo she has us beat. She does not need as much to get up these climbs like the bigger riders do. I know I'm working hard here. I left the music off so you can see how quiet it is when people are riding hard. Somebody's calling that car that was coming out of the yard, so people will be aware of it. When Katie's done working, she's pulled off the front, she's drifting back. She pulled off into the direction of the wind. The wind has now changed to where it's coming from the southeast. And south, you hear that? South is directly in front of us, but east is to our left, relatively. So Dave takes over. He's pulling. And this road in the forest twists and turns. So now on the draft, you have to keep searching for it. What I found in the forest was it was best to be on the left here. You see everybody kind of stagger a little to the left. But look at the speeds though. This is a slight descent, but it levels off. If you look up the road, you will see it curving to the right. That's a climb. They don't look like much, but it might be 2 to 3%. You feel it at these speeds. And you can, even if we had no graphics, you can see we're moving. We're not sightseeing here. We're moving. Riding with these guys, what I found is that even the drivers see that we're working. Right here it's going up a little bit. I don't know if it'll register enough, but I know I felt it. In a little while, you guys will see when Mo is pulling, how easily he just rides away without trying as the road goes up. Another cyclist going the other way. At this point, the Greg Shot and his brother Doug are taking shortcuts to meet us on the way back because they had to go and get a different bike for Greg because he had a problem with his shifter on his road bike. So you will see him join the group down the road. We don't stop for him, we just keep going. They're already going. Look at this road. You hear the clicks? I wanted you guys to hear that. Everybody's shifting. So don't be shy when you ride. The best riders in the world, they use their gears. It just makes sense. That's why I left the music out through here. So you see, a lot of riders don't like to shift. There's no reason to carry 11 and not use them. Use them all. There's somebody shifted again. You see how steady Mo is. That's what we strive for. You see how steady Paul is. You see how steady I am. All the people in this group. And that starts with a fit. And then you work at it. Paul's pulling off as soon as Dave pulls off because he does not want to go to the front. So I roll up to Mo's wheel. If you look in the distance, you can see the road looks like it's going up between the trees. That's about a 7% climb. I don't know if it registers or not. I know it's there. We've come through here enough times. But look how smooth Mo is. I mean, he looks like he's floating on the bike. That's the way you're supposed to look when everything's dialed in. No movement on the upper body. Just turning the pedals. And we're moving at 40 to 41 kilometers with wind swirling around. And the road is going to begin to go up. I don't know if this is a 7%er. This may be. I don't know if he stands. If he stands, that would give me a hint. Yeah, you see here, this is the beginning of it. And look up the road where it snakes to the left. That's the 7%er. That's why we like coming out here. Beautiful. You get 1 or 2 cars, if that. The rest of the time, the forest is yours. I think this is somewhere around here where he stands. I'll go ahead and just let him go. I just hold my pace. Because we've got several groups on the road already. There's there's a split. You're going to see him stand. He looks behind to see what's going on with the group. You'll see him look behind, looking for the guys that are off the back. Look back. He just stands and stretches his leg. He didn't shift. Same gear. And just rides away. Because I'm not lifting my pace 1 inch. The rest of the guys roll around me and get on his way. You see Christian come around. It's Christian. And then Katie. And I decide I'm going to back off. We've been riding for almost 3 hours. It felt like full gas to me the whole time. Just hard. And the conditions are tough. So I'm thinking about the highway at the end of this forest. And I decide I'm not going to lift my pace. I'm right at the bottom. I'm at sweet spot. But we've been riding hills. So it doesn't matter what my heart rate is doing. My legs are telling me they're tired. Because we've been pounding hills for almost 3 hours. And at the pace that they hold, I'm not accustomed to that for this duration. That's why you must always listen to yourself and ride. When I say you ride by feel, that's what it means. Those guys are back there. So I'll spin the camera around.
These boys are not playing. The pace is hot.
After this ride, I took a nap in the afternoon, and then I slept well the night after the ride, Saturday night. Slept like a baby. I was tired. And then Paul told me that Christian told him he was tired. So the ride was hard for everybody. It's hard. So we're going to be going back. Let's step it up a notch. With all the kilometers we've been doing, that's why I was able to tolerate this, because these guys are fast. They've been doing this for years at this level, and I dropped off for some time, and I wasn't going this long. So Mo is waiting for Paul and them. Paul, Dave, and Will are together. They're staying with Paul. They're bringing him up. You see them back there? And I told him, I said, it felt to me like he was some ambassador or dignitary, like a diplomat visiting. They're shepherding him like he's got, like, look, he's in the middle there. Watch, look. Being shielded because the wind is from the left, from the east, and from the front. I'm like, what about me? Am I chopped liver here or something? You know? But it's like you're bringing the diplomatic corps. You know, I told him about it, you know, what I mentioned. I said, man, it was like they were bringing the ambassador of some country into town, you know. But they saw that Paul was trying. So, you know, this level of riding is so hard. Because we've done so many kilometers in the last several weeks, the last 3 weeks building up to the Rafa Festa 500, that's why I felt like we could attempt this, and Paul rode well. These guys, you're dealing with elite riders. These are the guys winning all the races in this region, you know. We're talking about they're always on the podium. Mo has won so many races, and, you know, it's like, please. So, yeah. These are the guys you train with, and then you go do a race, because they're so fast that when you go and race in your category, you'll be faster than the people in your category, because these guys are higher level racers. On today, Monday, Christmas Eve, we're on a ride. Yeah, I'm telling Will that this guy had a wide load. Yeah, because that guy had wide load. The hill bit, it was taking up most of the road. Pointing that out. It wasn't too bad. You see more pushing him just to get him through a little spot of bother. So we did this for about another hour or so, and then we told Mo to go ahead and go. Once we got into Montgomery, we basically told Mo, go ahead and go. We're going to just spin in and chat. But 3 hours plus, hard. Felt like just a long race. Side over here, watching him, see him struggling. Rise up the wall, okay, more backed up a bit. And this is what I'm saying. These guys are elite riders that are trying to keep the group together. Now look, Dave moves up, give Paul more shelter. Then Will moves up. So right there, Paul is shielded from the wind coming from the left. Because they see that he's trying, and so they're trying to encourage him by that, but we still ride.
Look left.
Hey man, you should look good, you know, like that's my thing, like you just gotta look good while you're cycling. That's the most important. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you gotta look the business. Yeah.
That's what Will said. Will said, at least you look good, man, even though you're struggling. I say he said you look good. Not only does Paul look smooth, Will's talking about his kit. You know, you can't really tell he's struggling other than when he falls off the pace a little bit. And what I was doing was I was going to come on his right so we could put a cocoon around him. And when I said go left, he didn't hear me in the wind very clearly. So he came right, and I said, no, go left. And so you can see the road now is going downhill, and it's got a little kicker at the end there. And right here, there's a lot of bumps. This is where, you know, it's chewed up. So you don't want to depend on anybody pointing things out. You just got to be able to see around people. And we're flying. So this way, everybody gets to stay together. They just did a little extra work to kind of sit back and wait for Paul. See all of the debris, so I moved left. No cars coming. I used the road. And it's slightly downhill. Now it kicks up here. Just a little bit. But it robs your speed. You can see we're below 40. We're like 30K now. And now we're going to come on the open road. We're out of the forest. Bethel Road continues to the left. There is a piece that goes to the right. You will see that. It splits off. On the left, they call it FM 1097, but it's still known as Bethel Road. We're about to leave the forest completely. Right here is like farm. I think we're out of the forest. We're going to hit the highway in a little bit. Less than a kilometer up the road. Look at all this stuff chewed up here. So you've got to pay attention. And I'm just finding a line because I got my Victorias on. They don't like a lot of stuff. They like smooth pavement. Look at Mo dodging holes at the last minute, using his hips to move that bike. So he has full control. So that's Bethel Road to the right. It goes to the Gorilla route that we talk about. And this way is also called Bethel Road, but they call it the FM 1097, and it's the western piece of it. And this part of it is just smooth like a baby's behind. Look at Mo. Look at the turn of speed from Mo. Without trying, just his legs. That's what we're talking about, guys. You got to put the K's in. That's what it gives you. I mean, he's got great talent, of course, but he just makes everything look easy. Listen to the wind. This road is exposed. That's Christian and I believe, what's her name, Katie, at least. And then we also come across the riders that had mechanicals. They joined us. The Doug and his brother, Greg. And you'll see they come in. They haven't ridden as far as we did, because we ended up doing 163 kilometers. Most working with Paul here. He wants to get in front of me so he can be behind Paul. And he's talking to Paul. You can see the wind went away as I got closer in here. That's the benefit of the draft. Now Doug Shot and his brother joined us because it just came because when he changed his bike and got a time trial bike. That's Katie on the left there. She's drifting back. This road goes up. The set 1% is a little more than that. At these speeds and what we've been doing, doesn't matter what your heart rate's doing, your legs are screaming. Two different sets of things to pay attention to. That's why I tell people, don't get hung up too much on heart rate. You gotta have the legs. All the champions that talk about legs, you gotta talk about, that's what you need to focus on. You gotta have the legs. More pushing Paul up the road. Now, what's gonna happen here? Nobody wants to go in. It's very windy here. And the guy who just joined us, you will see him when he pulls up. Greg Shot. He was the one that was riding on the right and had the mechanical, the shifting problem when we're leaving early. He's got a time trial bike and he's acting like we're sprinting. We're going into the wind here. I'm talking about, listen to it. It's like a little tornado. He's pulling almost, what is that, 37? I think there are times when I saw 42. It just gets brutally fast. Listen to that. It's not sustainable. So he go, look, 43 kilometers an hour, 44. And it's windy. And that's Greg at the front. They knew the route, so they took a shortcut once he got the bike and met us on the way back. Listen to that wind. Look at the speeds. This is just crazy. Even Mo told us after a while, he said, it was just not sustainable. It's just too fast. But these boys put the K's in and they want to stretch their legs. You hang on for dear life. There he is. He's pulling off. It's not sustainable. You can't stay there too long. But we got a tight train going here. And that took a lot out of Paul because he'd already been working for almost 3 hours in those hills. That's why we go to Richard. Richard's tough. That's Greg here who was nailing the pace at the front with his TT bike. I don't know how he handled that thing in this wind. I'm sitting on Christian's wheel, so I'm getting a really good draft. I look over, I'm keeping my eye, I'm making sure the camera has a good view. And I think his brother is pulling now, Doug. At least that's what I think. I don't think it's Mo. It's hard. You see Christian's working? It's hard. Doug is pulling. Doug is pulling. Doug Shot. And right here it starts breaking up. Paul's falling back, so I decided to kind of hang back with him right here. You can see the pace line has splintered. The pace is just not realistic in these conditions. So Jared is behind us, Katie's husband. I'm here with Paul. I don't know if I flipped the camera or not. We're laughing. So Mo's coming back, Mo's coming back. And this is where it really gets cool, where you guys see an elite rider show how easy this stuff is supposed to be done.
They hook up with her and they're pulling like there's no wind.
That's what I tell him Mo. I said, these guys just hooked up with her. They didn't go to Richards and they're pulling like there's no wind. And that's when he told me it's not sustainable. He said, it's not going to last.
Yeah, they've been riding easy.
So he pulled out to wait for us to pull, to kind of, so we can encourage Paul. And So I tell Paul to get on Mo's wheel right there. I said, go ahead and get up to Mo. And we get to the business of riding. So you're gonna see as we progress. Listen to that thing. This is exposed farm country, and that wind is just pounding. So all I'm doing is I'm staying behind Paul. It's just the three of us now. We know that there are two riders back there. The guy who took the pull, the big pull, got dropped. So he's back there with Jared. So we're not waiting on him. We're just riding. So Greg Shot took a big pull and got dropped. The group is up the road. He's back there. But Paul's falling off the pace. It's just so hard. He's tired. He's like, I don't know if I got anything left. He's been telling us for miles and miles. We've been egging him on. You know, we wouldn't let him back off. So I put Paul on my left. Now he's in the draft. I'm telling him you need to fight for that. So we shift up and we try it again. Look at Mo, guys. This is what I'm talking about. The only thing you see moving are his legs. He uses his hips to avoid the debris and other stuff that come up. That's what I'm talking about. You find a cadence you can maintain and you go. You don't want to be pushing a monster gear in these conditions. Your legs will tire out. So you have to condition your body, your lungs, your aerobic system to be able to work like this. That's why we ride lots. Because every ride you work on different things. It's not possible to do everything on one ride. You have to ride a lot. If you don't ride often enough, you won't get the opportunity to work on the different systems. If you look at my heart rate, I'm in zone 1. My legs are telling me we're in zone 4. They're working a lot harder than my heart is. So my heart, you see, Mo's pulling ahead anyway because he loves to play with his bike. I just go through, he tells me to go ahead, and I think he's going to go back for Paul. I think Paul fell off. The road's going up here, 2%. The guys are up there, you can see them in the distance. We're not chasing them, we're just riding. So he brought Paul back, he told him to use the easy gear. So here is an elite level rider taking the time to work with Paul. The reason is that he just sees the discipline, the desire, the ambition. You can't teach that. So I move up. Paul is again in my draft. We're going up the Mo. I tell him to stay there. And it's hard because the pace is hard.
Yeah, drink, eat.
So, you know, Mo kept telling us, you know, it's very mental, it's more mental than physical. But what happens is, at some point, you have to realize I'm on empty. And when you're on empty, it's time to save it for another day. So all he was doing here was giving encouragement because he sees the desire, the dedication, and just what I call when the tough gets going, the tough get rough. Is that the phrase? When the tough get going, there was a song they made. When the going gets tough, the tough get rough or hang tough, something like that. And it was a brutal ride today, and he saw that. Now look, he unzipped his vest because he's getting hot. It's warmer now, and that's why it's so blustery. We had a cold front come in, drop the temperature. So the wind was northwesterly in the morning. As it warmed up, the wind from the Gulf, southeast, is trying to come in, and they're just swirling around fighting the northwesterly wind that was here already. The wind's gonna be doing this thing. You find the gear, you put it in there, and you just work. So I ride up the Mo. Paul's on my wheel on my left. because the wind is coming from in our face and to the right, I believe. Now we got Jared and Greg, the guy who was killing us with the pull. He's struggling on the back there. We end up dropping them without trying, you'll see. This is why you need to stay within yourself. Now, Greg is a good rider. Greg's a nice guy. Greg helped me a lot when I was not feeling well on the ride. But I'm just saying that he pulled so hard that he ended up off the back when those guys continued. So right here, I think he and Jared, he was probably hanging back with Jared because I know Greg can ride this pace. He's probably hanging back with Katie's husband. Katie is the strong one in the family. I want you guys to just watch Mo. Smooth. The bike looks like it's hovering. That's what happens when you're fitted to your bike. You use your hips to move around. You don't use the steering. You see him drift. Just drift to avoid debris. And I am close. When you can't see the road, that means I'm close. The camera's there. That wind is just brutal. It was so hard. I think Greg ended up staying behind with Jared because after a while we don't see them with us. So if you're riding down the road and you scooting around and doing all that, nah, you need to invest in your fit. You know, this is 3 hours into the ride. We don't scoot around. We just sit and ride. And look at Mo making it look easy. You see Paul drop his head there? He's like, I don't know about this. He's grit his teeth. He's like, I don't know about this. I'm watching him. This is where you want to optimize your cadence. It's windy or hilly, and you're going to be doing it for a while. You find a gear ratio that would allow you to keep your cadence high. And Mo is showing it much better than I could say it. That's what they mean when they say spinners are winner. They don't mean that you accelerate to 120 RPMs and try to stay there. You find a high cruising cadence that you can maintain. I had told Mo to back off a little bit. He did, and I told him, okay. I was keeping my eye on Paul. You can see my heart rate. I'm in zone 1. My heart is so efficient. It does not need to go very hard. Even though we're going hard, my legs are screaming, you know, because it's been a long day in the hills and these winds. So they're different systems. So you see Mo turn his head slightly. He's keeping an eye on us. He wants to make sure we're still there. That's what he's doing. You don't need to turn your head completely around. You use your peripheral vision. That's what he's using to keep his eye on us. You see how close I am. I'm on there. And Paul's on my wheel. And we're keeping our eye on him. Because that makes a difference when you're hurting. These guys are levels up from where we've been riding, and so we decided to ramp it up. We've got the miles or the kilometers in our legs, and it was time to get a taste of the seasoning. That's what this ride was about. It was a nice visit. I'm glad we did that. We got to meet some fabulous cyclists. I'm letting him know that 2 other riders back there, those 2 guys that were with us, have fallen off. I think Greg stayed behind with Jared, because I know Greg can hold his pace. So you can't just focus on heart rate. Your heart rate can be low and your legs dying. You can be dropped at a low heart rate. So don't get hung up on those things. Mo is dropping back to talk with Paul. He went back to get Paul, and I'm just waiting for them to come back up. Just encouraging him. Because Paul had told me a while back, probably at the 2.5 hour mark, that he was on empty. So he's been riding for 40 minutes on empty. Because we've been cajoling and encouraging him. So Mo has settled down. He rides real. He's easy to follow. He just keeps it steady. He's not changing the pace. But we're moving along into this little gale force wind at 37 kilometers an hour like it's nothing. I look back for Paul. We get a little bit of a gap, then Mo backs off a bit. Got a few kilometers before we get into town. That light that Mo has is made by Cyclolot. It's called a hot shot. He tells me to go ahead so he can go back to Paul.
It's downtown Montgomery, my brother.
So we're encouraging him that we're almost downtown.
Left the open road.
I'm standing here, keep my gear rolling. So this is how you keep a group together, as shown by our local elite racer, Maurizio Topini, and the assistance of Will and Dave. So you got to see that even the best in the world understand that you have to keep encouraging others to come out and ride. We all had a blast. We helped Paul empty the tank. I'm not sure that was his plan, but he ended up emptying the tank on Saturday.
That's how you keep the group together. That's pro level riding. Pro caliber rider you all looking at up there. They're called dig deep. Made me dig deep.
So I hope you all got a chance to get some K's in. If you didn't, get moving, get on that trainer, and get out there. Keep those doctors fired.